All right, what's up, boys? What's up, boys? We got a small slate tonight. We just got a little three-gamer. But as always, guys, we're gonna talk through tonight's slate. We're gonna, break everything down, answer all your guys' questions for the next 25 to 30 minutes. If you have questions about tonight's slate, whether whatever it may be, lineup-specific questions, you can start throwing those in chat. And I'm just gonna try and answer everything. We'll be live for about 25, 30 minutes. But I appreciate you guys tuning in, man. Hit the like button as always. I appreciate all the likes. If you're new here, subscribe as well. And let's get down to it, baby. Let's get down to it. I did go live a little bit later today, just because it's a 7:30 Eastern lock. Locks 30 minutes later than normal. I think for the rest of the season, my plan is to go live an hour before lock. I'll have a scheduled stream posted on YouTube. You'll see it. You'll see what time I'm going live each day. But I think the plan is going to be to go live an hour before lock each day. What's up, Tank? What's up, my man? Anything stands out to you on Prize Picks? I can take a look, see what I like. The projections for the most part today, I think, are pretty accurate. There's nothing that really catches my eye that I feel great about. But obviously, we want to get some action in, so let's see. Like Draymond, Draymond got 31 fantasy points. Like, that does still feel too low for Draymond. That's a pick that I kind of like. I know he's only gone over that in once out of his last 5 games, but in a big time game against Brooklyn, I expect Draymond to play well. I expect him to need they're going to need his defense against KD. I like over on Draymond. I kind of like over on all the stars in this game, like Harden, Draymond. I think all the stars are going to do well in this game. I expect it to be high scoring. I expect it to be competitive. So if you wanted to go over on Curry, KD, Harden, Draymond, I wouldn't mind that at all. Bruce Brown, I think they're going to need more minutes out of Bruce Brown. He's a guy they like to use on the defensive end. He might be, one of the primary defenders on Steph. Bruce Brown's only projected for 22 fantasy points. I think he plays 30, 32 minutes tonight without Joe Harris. If you want to go over on him, I think that's a pick I have some interest in. If Patty Mills starts, which I think he will, you could take his over. They got him at 22 fantasy points. They have his points at 12.5, just real life points. I think I'd probably take over 12.5 points before I would take fantasy points. Because if Patty Mills gets 22 fantasy points, he's probably going to get there from points because that's really all he does is score. He doesn't really do much else except score. He doesn't really get assists or rebounds or steals or blocks. So over on Patty Mills' points, I kind of like for Prize Picks. And then in the late games, again, the projections feel pretty accurate. I would say that if Terrence Mann does not play, I think we're going to get big minutes from Eric Bledsoe. Reggie Jackson will probably play big minutes. If you wanted to go over on both of those guys, I think that's fine. PG's projection feels about right. A lot of these guys, their projections feel right, but those are a few more I like from the later games. I think I'm gonna do 2 entries tonight on Prize Picks. I'm gonna do one from the early game, and then I'm gonna do one from the later games, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. I haven't made my entries yet, but I'm gonna get them in, after I hop off the stream. Been doing really well on Prize Picks lately, man. Hopefully I can keep it going. What's up, Daniel? What's up, my man? Who are your top 3 plays tonight? I mean, I don't want to give out top plays. I mean, if you want my core plays, those are posted on Patreon. On this slate, there's obviously a lot of studs. I mean, you could go Curry, Harden, KD, Durant, or KD, PG. All those guys are top plays for me. I think Curry's my favorite of all the studs, but you can't go wrong with any of those guys. Value-wise, if Patty Mills starts, I think he's a good value. If Terrence Mann's out, I think Luke Kennard's a solid value. I think guys like Eric Bledsoe, Derek White are a little bit too cheap. But I don't want to give out too much, man. If you want my full core plays, those are posted on Patreon. I try and respect the people that pay for the Patreon advice. I can't give out everything for free, man. Hope you understand. Most fantasy points by the end of the night: Steph, KD, or Harden. Educated guess. I mean, man, the projections on those guys are just so close. So let's see. I'm gonna go sort by fantasy points. So KD, talking about Draftkings scoring. KD's projected for 53. Paul George is projected for 50.8. James Harden's projected for 50.6, and Steph Curry's projected for 48.5. So using the projections, Kevin Durant has the highest projection of all those guys. My personal opinion, I prefer Steph the most. So I would take Steph over those 2 guys. The projections would side with KD, though. KD's projected to be the highest owned stud on the slate, which I think is fine, but I'd rather play Curry. If Curry's going to be 14% owned and KD's going to be 57%, I don't see any reason to play KD over Steph when the ownership's that drastic on a 3-game slate. Value is so limited. Bad idea to have Thad and Eubanks and Bruce Brown Mills in the same lineup. Playing Thad and Eubanks in the same lineup, probably not something I'd be doing, just because those guys, they're not going to play any minutes alongside each other. But Bruce Brown and Patty Mills, they're going to play alongside each other. There's a good chance that both those guys are in the starting lineup. So I think playing Bruce Brown and Mills together is totally fine. But Thad and Eubanks in the same lineup, that's probably not something I'd be doing. What are your thoughts on playing Drummond and Toby? I mean, Drummond at his price tag, like on DraftKings at 8,700, I'm just not that high on Drummond. I'd rather save $1,000 and play Gobert. Tobias Harris, he has a lot of upside, but on DraftKings, again, he feels priced about right. The Philly-Utah game, I think, is definitely my least favorite game of these three. It's the game I'm likely to have the least exposure to. I mean, Drummond and Tobias Harris both have upside, but neither one are priority plays for me on DraftKings. I will say, though, that if you play on Yahoo, Tobias Harris looks really good on Yahoo. Like him a lot more over there. Thanks, bro, for your input. Hey, sure thing, Daniel. Sure thing, my man. For last man in, who do you like best? Bruce Brown, Niang, O'Neal, or Kennard? For me there, it would be between Bruce Brown or Kennard. I think Kennard plays a lot of minutes, especially if Terrence Mann's out. But then, like, if you play Kennard and then Terrence Mann plays, I wouldn't like Kennard as much. I might just say Bruce Brown. I think Bruce Brown plays like 30-plus minutes just because no Joe Harris, that secures his minutes. And plus, he's a pretty decent defender, so they're going to use him defensively on Steph, I'd assume. So I would take Bruce Brown there. KD, Steph, or Harden. I prefer Steph the most, but, man, you can't go wrong. Like, it's just so close between all those guys. They all project so closely. Hopefully just one of the studs, or all the studs just kind of score around the same. Because at the end of the night, man, I feel like it's going to come down to, which stud do you play? Do you get the right one? I feel like one of these guys is going to go for, 65, 70, and you just got to hope you play the right one. But if we're lucky, they'll all score around the same, and it won't really matter. 5,400 util other than White and Thad Young. I would say Eric Bledsoe. He's 5,200 on DraftKings. I would say him. Eric Bledsoe's been playing a lot of minutes lately, and if Terrence Mann's out, I mean, Eric Bledsoe might play close to 40 minutes. The Clippers, they've been running a really tight rotation this year. So I would say Bledsoe. 3 star players and the rest scrubs tonight. It's going to be really hard to do that. If you want to play Curry, Harden, and PG in the same lineup, I mean, you have 36, 60 left per player. There's just not enough good value to make that work. So it's really hard to play, it's really hard to go stars and scrubs today. I think you're probably going to have to play, max of 1 stud. You can maybe play 2 studs on this slate, but really hard to go full stars and scrubs. Just not enough good value. Rudy, Draymond, or Maxey? I would say Rudy Gobert there. What's up, Michael? What's up, my man? Let's get it, baby. Think it's okay to play 2 of the studs? Yeah, I think 2's fine. 3 is going to be really tough to do. Vassell or Aldridge? I'm not that high on either one of those guys. Honestly, I think both those guys have been performing a bit over their heads lately. But if I had to pick one, man, I think I'd go Devin Vassell, but that's really close. Gobert is too cheap, right? I mean, at 7,700, I feel like that's probably a good price for him. But when you look at the center position, center's just not great. I mean, Draymond, you can play at center, who I do like. You can play Thad Young at center, who I do like. But there's not a lot of good center plays today. I mean, Zubac's viable, Aldridge is viable, Eubanks is fine. But I think just looking at the center position and how thin it is, I think Gobert does stand out. There's no reason that Gobert should be $1,000 less than Drummond when both those guys project pretty similarly. And I do like the matchup for Gobert against Drummond. Drummond's never been a good defender at all. And I rarely play Rudy Gobert, but he does look like a pretty good option today. Griffin or Kennard? Give me Luke Kennard, especially if Terrence Mann's out. But I'd still play Kennard, I think. Eubanks and Thad in the same line? I wouldn't do that. Do you like Bembry? Bembry's just kind of a dart throw. If he winds up starting, then he would look a little bit better. We don't have a net starting lineup yet. We're still waiting on that. I assume they're going to start Patty Mills, but we'll see. If Bembry starts, he'd be a little bit better. But still wouldn't be a top value, I don't think. Bembry's never really been that great of a producer. He's never been a great point-per-minute player. So he could start, play 25 minutes, and still score 15 DraftKings points. Favorite centers on Yahoo? It's probably Gobert and God, because Thad Young's a power forward. If If you don't pay up for Gobert or Drummond, your other options are Zubac, Aldridge, or Eubanks. Or you could punt and go with like Kevon Looney or Blake Griffin. I would say just try and get like Gobert or Drummond. Really think you want to be paying up at center on Yahoo if possible. Thanks as always for the insight, bro. Hey, you got it, Tank. You got it, my man. Bruce or Patty Mills? I would take Patty Mills, I think, but both those guys I do like for value tonight. Again, we're still waiting on that Brooklyn starting lineup. If Patty Mills does start, he will be a pretty good value. How do you feel with Mitchell and KD in the same lineup? I think that's fine, Victor, if you can make it work. Donovan Mitchell on this slate, I don't think really is someone I'm prioritizing. He's not like my favorite stud overall, but definitely in play, obviously. And KD, can't go wrong with KD. He's the top projected stud right now. Gobert or Mitchell for Utah? For the savings, I would probably take Gobert, but those are two guys that, project very closely. So it's, you're just flipping a coin, in my opinion, between those two. Looney or Blake Griffin? I probably would take Blake Griffin if I had to pick one of those two. Thoughts on Court Moss? I think Court Moss is fine. He probably starts tonight without Danny Green. They're probably going to start him in place of Danny Green. He's not that cheap on DraftKings, but, if Court Moss starts, plays close to 30 minutes, he can get hot from three. He can put up a decent game. He's fine, but I think if Court Moss was like 3,600 today, he would be a really good value, but at 4,600, just not much of a priority for me. Reggie or Bledsoe? I would go Reggie there, but both those guys are in play for me. I think Keldon Johnson's fine, Brandon. Keldon Johnson, I don't know if he's really someone I'm prioritizing on this slate, but yeah, he's obviously in play. He's been getting big minutes lately, Keldon Johnson has, and he's been really productive. He's been consistent as well. Poole okay for a last piece? Yeah, I think he's fine for a last piece. On this slate, Jordan Poole's not someone I'm really like jamming in or prioritizing, but yeah, if he fits into your lineup, it's totally okay to play Jordan Poole. I will say that I probably wouldn't play Poole and Curry together, because it seems like whenever Poole has his really big games, it's because like Curry is maybe not doing as well. Like I think earlier this year when Poole had like a massive game, it was one that Curry really struggled in. So I don't think I'd play those two guys together, just heads up. LaMarcus Aldridge for center spot. Look, Aldridge is fine. He's been playing like 22 minutes lately. He's been producing like at a really high rate. I don't know if that continues rest of season for Aldridge. I don't think he's going to average 35 DraftKings points in 22 minutes. I'm personally probably just going to fade Aldridge, but if he fits into your lineup and you want to play him, I think it's fine. But I personally don't think I'm going to play Aldridge. Yeah, Thad Young I think is a good option. He's not going to be someone that really gets a ton of minutes, but he's been really productive when he gets minutes. Even if he plays like 24, 25 minutes, Thad Young has shown he can produce at a high rate. I would definitely prefer like Thad Young over LaMarcus Aldridge. Like if I'm going to play one of those two guys and they get similar minutes, I would just rather play Thad Young, who's a better producer. Top stud overall? That's such a tough question, man. It's a 3-game slate. All these guys are viable. Curry, KD, Harden, PG. I think Curry's my favorite, especially if he's going to be the lowest owned of all the 4 studs above 10K. But you can't go wrong with any of them, honestly. Favorite Yahoo values today? Probably like Patty Mills. A lot of the same guys like on DraftKings, like Patty Mills, Luke Kennard if Terrence Mann's out, Bruce Brown's cheap on Yahoo. I like him. Those guys. Can you play Reggie Jackson and Bledsoe? I think it's fine to play those guys in the same lineup. I think it's fine, yeah. Because both of them are going to play a ton of minutes. I don't think I'd play like Reggie Jackson, Bledsoe, and PG in the same lineup. If you do that, then you're basically you're probably going to want to stack the game at that point. And game stacking is something normally I don't do, but on a 3-game slate, yeah, game stacking is a lot more viable. Bledsoe or Seth Curry? Give me Bledsoe. Whiteside is a punt. Look, Whiteside, he's a really productive player when he's on the floor. He's going to play like 12 to 15 minutes. Whiteside could put up 28 DraftKings points in 15 minutes. We've seen him do it before, but I don't think he's like a top value or anything. I think if you do play Whiteside, you basically just like hope that Gobert like gets in foul trouble or something, and Whiteside gets more minutes because of that. Patty and Bruce Brown in the same lineup, I think that's fine. Best play at 3,300. I don't think there's going to be too much down there, man. There's really nobody down here. I guess Bembry, without Joe Harris, Bembry probably picks up a few more minutes. He would be my pick, I guess, like Bembry or Iguodala, but there's really nobody down here that I love, to be honest with you. Murray, Harris, or Mitchell? Give me Dejounte Murray. Can't figure out which two, Griffin, Kennard, or Bruce Brown. I would probably go Kennard and Bruce Brown there. What do you think about Conley tonight? Conley's fine. When the Jazz are fully healthy, Conley is never really a guy I get excited to play or prioritize into my lineups. But again, it's a 3-game slate. He's playable, but not someone I'm really like forcing in. Curry, Mills, Durant, Draymond, Thad Young, Derek White, Bruce Brown, Looney. I think that's pretty solid, Daniel. Looney's a guy that I'm not that interested in. He just doesn't have a much upside, but I think the rest of that lineup's fine. Is there a site to look at for teams' player rotations? Yeah, if you go to popcornmachine.net, they have player rotations. I can pull it up on the screen to show you what it looks like. I know there's some other sites that have them, but Popcorn Machine is the site that it's free and it's what most people use. So it looks like this. It shows all the games. So this is all the games from yesterday. So if you want to look at the Cavs and Celtics game, just click Game Flow, and you can see, when a player, like who subs in for when a player subs out, who subs in for them. It's a good way to kind of understand the rotation, see if teams are staggering minutes and all that stuff. So I would recommend Popcorn Machine. Keldon or Reggie Jackson, give me Reggie. Deontay or Mitchell, give me Deontay. Conley or Jackson, give me Reggie Jackson. Keldon Johnson or Wiggins, give me Keldon Johnson. What are your thoughts on Jordan Clarkson? Yeah, he's another guy, like when the Jazz are fully healthy, I just never really rostered Jordan Clarkson. But, he's one of those guys that can get hot. He can have good games from time to time, but he's really, his box score is very up and down, I will say. When Jordan Clarkson's not really making shots, he's just not going to have a good game. So if you play Jordan Clarkson, you just got to hope that the shot's falling for him. Because when it is falling, he's going to just keep shooting. We've seen it before. Would you stack any game? I think game stacking is a lot more viable on short slates. We kind of mentioned that earlier. The Golden State Brooklyn game is the one that I like the most, I think, just because there's good studs to pay up for in that game, and some of my favorite values are coming from that game, like Patty Mills and Bruce Brown. I guess that would be the one game if I were to stack. It probably would be that one. Definitely, I think Philly, Utah, like if you want to get really contrarian, stack that game because that's going to be the game that really just gets no ownership. I don't expect a ton of plays to be high owned in the Sixers Jazz game. And look, it's a 3-game slate, man. You can, whatever's contrarian, you can do that for sure. Zubac over LMA. I would take Zubac over Aldridge, yeah. Gobert or Drummond? I mean, I would take Gobert, especially because he's cheaper. What do you think about playing Reggie Jackson and Bledsoe in the same lineup? I think it's totally fine, Michael. Totally fine. Especially if Terrence Mann's out, because without Terrence Mann, like they're going to run big minutes for Reggie and Bledsoe, I'd assume. Looney or Hartenstein? If I was going to play one of those guys, it probably would be Hartenstein, honestly. Blake Griffin or Bruce Brown straight up? Give me Bruce Brown. No interest in Paul Reed for me. Paul Reed barely played last game. He only played like 5 minutes, I think. He played 7 minutes last game. He's just basically they're going to play Drummond big minutes, and whoever they're going to give a few of the backup center minutes to Paul Reed. They're going to give some of them to I forgot who the other guy was. What's his name? Bassey. Yeah, they'll give a few minutes to Bassey. Like Bassey played 4 minutes last game, so yeah, I mean you can't play Paul Reed on this slate. I don't think. If you do play Paul Reed, you're probably hoping for a blowout. And I rarely play guys hoping for a blowout, but on a 3-game slate, that's something that could wind up, paying off in the end. If you do play a guy like that and the game does blow out, he could be a winning play, but still not someone I'd be, running the roster. What do you think about playing Gobert, Harris, and George? I mean, I think that's going to be a really, really contrarian build. I think a lot of the ownership in terms of pay-up options is going to go to the Warriors-Nets game, so you're going to see a lot of ownership on, the main 3 guys there, Curry, Harden, KD. I don't think those 3 guys will get nearly as much ownership, so that's a good way to be different, I guess, is to play Gobert, Harris, and George. Pick 2, Curry, KD, Harden, or KD as spend-up options on Yahoo. I would probably take Curry and KD if you just picking 2 of the 3. But between KD and Harden and Curry, I mean, they all just project so close, man. If the ownership stays how it is and KD's going to be 57% owned and Curry's going to be 14%, I don't care if Curry projects 5 points less than KD. Curry's the way better play when he's 14% owned and KD's 57%. There's no reason for KD to be that high over Curry. They're a small forward under $12 on Yahoo. I think your only playable options there are Luke Kennard and Bruce Brown. I would say Bruce Brown, but I think Kennard's fine too, especially if Terrence Mann's out. Eubanks and Thad in the same lineup, I wouldn't do that. We kind of mentioned that earlier. You know, those guys are going to just split minutes. They're not going to play alongside each other, so it doesn't feel like something you want to do playing them together. $20 left for util spot, Young, Bledsoe, or Conley. Give me Thad Young there, Cincy, but man, like those guys all project very closely. I think I'd take Thad Young though. Zubac, a good center option. I mean, Zubac's fine on this slate. He's not someone I'm like forcing in or building around, but he's, you know, as a last piece, if you have Zubac in your lineup, I think it's totally fine. You don't have to like get rid of him. Kennard or Niang, give me Luke Kennard. What about Kuminga? Yeah, I don't think I'd be going to Jonathan Kuminga. Really all the secondary Warriors guys, like outside of the main starters, Curry, Wiggins, Draymond, Poole, the rest of these guys, man, like Porter, Bielitsa, Damian Lee, Iguodala, like all these guys are just dart throws at best. You know, you never really know how the minutes are going to be spread out between all these bench guys from Golden State. They run a pretty deep rotation. Yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence in anyone off the bench from Golden State. You know, it wouldn't be surprising if one of these guys has a good game for their salaries, but, you know, good luck guessing which one it's going to be. So Kuminga, I don't have much interest in. I was able to make a lineup with KD, Steph, Draymond, and Eric Bledsoe. Do you think that's a decent core four for tonight? I think I found decent value. I mean, all four of those guys are firmly in play, so yeah, I think that's totally fine. Harden over KD, I mean, if you want to do that, it's fine. KD projects better. Harden's going to be a lot lower owned. It's really up to you, man. I have no strong lean between KD and Harden. Usually Harden's the guy that I like playing more on DraftKings, just because on DraftKings you get, you know, the triple-double bonus, you get the double-double bonus, and Harden can get the, you know, get the triple-double bonus. Plus he shoots threes, and, you know, you get half a point for three-pointers made, so I think DraftKings scoring is more favorable to Harden. So maybe take Harden because of that. Is Lonnie Walker coming off a bad game a good punt play at 3,700? I mean, Lonnie Walker on a 3-game slate, I think it's fine, but I don't really have much confidence in Lonnie Walker. He probably plays like 20 to 22 minutes. If you need the value play, I think it's okay, but yeah, Lonnie Walker's not really a guy I'm really thrilled to roster tonight. I probably would play like Luke Kennard, Patty Mills, Bruce Brown. Like, I'd probably play those guys over Lonnie Walker, I think. Mitchell or Maxey? Give me Donovan Mitchell for sure. Favorite $10 util? Probably Bruce Brown, I would take, at $10. He's probably my favorite $10 play on Yahoo. I mean, there's a couple of guys that you can play at $10, but I would say Bruce Brown's my favorite. With the Warriors playing small, I think Harden and KD can smash. I mean, yeah, they definitely could. Both of them could have a good game tonight. I don't see why not. PG over KD. I probably would take KD there over Paul George. Right now, KD and Paul George are the two highest owned studs on the slate. Paul George coming in with 43% ownership, KD 57%. So, you know, the ownership difference isn't too massive. I would still take KD though. I really like Steph though. I think Steph should not be as low owned as he is compared to the other studs, because all these studs are, you know, project so closely. There's no reason that one of them should be 60% and the other one's, you know, low teens, you know, 20%. All right, guys, if you got any last-minute questions, you can start throwing those in chat. We're going to end the stream here shortly, though. Still waiting on a net starting lineup. We should be getting that sometime soon, given the game starts in like 30 minutes. So keep an eye on that net starting lineup. You know, that could definitely impact value. It could impact projections. I assume Patty Mills starts, but it would not be surprising if they go with like Bembry. They could play, you know, they could go big and start like Aldridge alongside Blake. I don't think they do that, but keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on that net starting lineup. That's definitely important. What are you having for dinner? Don't know yet, Kay. Don't know yet, my man. Had Zaxby's for lunch, and I'm still pretty full after lunch, so I don't know yet. We'll have to see. I usually eat dinner pretty late. I usually don't eat till like, you know, late 9:30, 10 Eastern. Favorite prize picks? Are you just doing fantasy? We gave out some prize picks earlier at the beginning of the stream, man. If you wanna rewind, you can do that. Draymond, over on Draymond's fantasy points I liked. Over on Bruce Brown's fantasy points I liked. But I gave out a bunch at the beginning of the stream if you want to check that out. Thanks for the stream, Noah. Good luck. Hey, good luck to you as well, my man. Good luck to you as well. Bielitsa in play. Yeah, I mean, Bielitsa, he's another just like dart throw. We talked about it, like the Warriors bench guys, Bielitsa, Otto Porter, Iguodala, Damian Lee, like all those guys are dart throws in my opinion. You never really know where the minutes are going to go between all them. The minutes are very, sporadic. They're very up and down. Bielitsa's a guy that when he does get minutes, he can produce. So he's a dart throw. He's playable, but I don't really have any confidence in Bielitsa. What state are you in, Noah? I'm in South Carolina. Live in South Carolina. Pooler Jackson, give me Reggie Jackson. All right, boys, I'm out of here. Best of luck tonight. Little 3-game slate. We'll be back tomorrow, an hour before lock, with a bigger slate tomorrow. I think we got like 10 or 11 games tomorrow, guys. So I will see you then. Appreciate you guys being here. Best of luck. We will see you tomorrow. Good luck, fellas.